Thank you very much for accepting my request for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
You are a singer, a piano player, a composer, a theatre artist, and an actor. And you are born in Cleveland, Ohio, in the United States. You grew up in Eindhoven.
I did, yeah.
And now you live in Arnhem, which is in Holland, in the Netherlands. How much American are you still right now?
Oh, wow. Well, probably not so much. I was really raised here from the day I became 1 year old. So, but what I did get from America, which I really love now, is I got the language, because not only did I hear it as a small child, and I mean recent scientists really say that that has so much effect on a baby when you first hear the English sounds, the language, and also we got these records like Sesame Street and everything, and I heard as a child, even though we were in the Netherlands, I heard so much of the English language because of the records and also the little booklets we had in English, so I guess that's what remains, and I think that's why I also still kind of think in English. I don't only think in Dutch, but it's like bilingual thinking in my head, yeah.
And what makes that special? What makes that American, the way you think?
Nah, not so much American as well, the English language. I think I've been affected by the English language more than the specific American language, not so much, just English.
Okay. Well, you are highly influenced in your work through classical composers such as Chopin, Liszt, Bach, Debussy, Satie, and even Robert Schumann.
Yes.
And also through artists like Radiohead and Björk.
Definitely.
Please tell me how music became serious in your life and how it happened you became a professional musician.
Well, I think music has always been something very serious for me, even as a kid, because my mom tells me that when I was 3 years old, I used to hang around the piano all the day. And at a certain moment, I would first bang, of course, on the keys, and then at a certain moment, I would start doing these movements on the piano, but above my head, because I was too small to reach, you know. And then she said, well, let's give her some real piano lessons before she teaches herself some sort of technique which is not going to help her in later life. So she found a teacher when I was 4, and then my first memories actually start there. I used to have this really cool piano teacher, and I remembered almost nothing of those days and that age, like 4 or 5, but I do remember a lot of piano lessons. So I had so much fun in that. And I studied classical piano because that's what you do when you go to music lessons at first, especially in those days. But when I was around 11, I started to get bored with the classical music. Didn't like it so much anymore. Didn't like to study as much anymore, of course, as one does. But I have a brother and sister who are 6 and 8 years older. And the moment I wanted to quit piano lessons, they were regretting having quit at 11. So my mom was like, wait a minute, they're regretting quitting and you're wanting to quit at 11. No, that's not gonna happen. So she kind of made me keep doing it, and it was kind of a war zone at home every week when I had to go to piano lessons, but she always said like, later on you'll be grateful. I was like, no. And now I'm, of course, very grateful because, yeah, I kind of pushed through that age where you don't want to study so much at the piano, and I'm so happy that I did, because now, yeah, of course, there's so much advantage to it. But I always lost my voice in singing. I would get hoarse, and so I thought, well, I'm going to go for an acting career. I love acting. Music, no, it's just a hobby. Let's do acting. And then once I finally got in this really prestigious acting school, like 8 people of 600 get accepted, I was in Arnhem, and then I was like, hey, a piano. And I kind of went to the piano all the time, so everybody would be with like Shakespeare and Artaud books and, I don't know, decor and everything, and I was like, oh, let's study some more Chopin. So it kind of, I mean, as we say in Holland, blood flows where it can't, you know, you just, sometimes it's just inside of you want to. So I guess I just started writing from there on, and at a certain moment that became professional, I guess. I hope that answers your question.
Well, with influences of composers like Debussy, Schumann, Satie, you are not alone, of course. Even your colleague Brad Meldau is highly influenced by Schubert.
And also by Radiohead, because he has some excellent Radiohead covers.
Exactly.
I'm actually working on one right now.
Yes.
Myself.
So, and all these influences you also can very nice hear in his piano play.
Definitely.
Did you ever met him? Well, he lives in the area of Amsterdam and he speaks really proper Dutch.
It's true, I haven't met him, I have met his drummer though. I had some contact with him when I saw their show. I somehow reached out to him because I was with my drummer back then. And we had some contact, but Brad I have never had the chance yet to meet, so who knows? Might come.
Great. Well, until today you released 4 albums, 4 full albums. There were singles and EPs also. Sure. And the last recent one from 2017 is Solitary High.
Yes.
And that is the first album of a trilogy.
Yes.
Here we have 10 songs, piano plus vocals, which is lyrics included. And on at least 2 or 3 songs, the acoustic atmosphere becomes different, kind of electronic. Will you become also an electronic musician somehow? And what does attract you to use these effects?
That's an interesting question, because I like to add just a little atmosphere by adding some reverb and delays and all kinds of playful effects that you can play around with. I'm not sure, you never know what you're going to become, but I really enjoy busying myself with the acoustical versions, but then lifting it a little bit with the effects, just lifting it, making it's like you add a little bit of sparkle. You know?
A little bit of champagne.
Yeah, a little bit of champagne, and I like that, but I think for now I'm going to keep it with these little small effects. Yeah, it just kind of lifts the atmosphere a bit to a more dreamy state, but I'm not into completely going into electronic music. There are enough people doing that, I'm going to do this.
Well, okay, there are 10 songs on your album. Do you want to share a message with Solitary High? What are the songs about?
Well, the songs are about, I don't like to explain my lyrics that much, so I'll keep it cryptic probably. But I can tell you as much as that I wrote them at night when I couldn't sleep. And I couldn't sleep because I was kind of fighting with myself over all kinds of emotions and longing for things that weren't in my life and weren't practical in my life either. But these longings kept me awake at night, and I put them into the songs to kind of get rid of them. But they were very transformative, and sometimes I even write what I don't know about myself yet. It's like sometimes my lyrics are more true than I dare to think, more truthful than my thoughts are. So that's interesting. But it's definitely, the title Solitary High also refers to a deep longing, a deep high, a deep wish that you kind of experience all by yourself, and you're kind of stuck in it. Don't know where to go with it, with all that energy. So yeah, and out came Solitary High.
Well, you are playing a lot. You have many gigs, many performances, and after each concert, you most of the time receive flowers.
I do, yeah, but it's because it's a thing in theaters.
Okay.
In the Netherlands, it's a culture in the theaters that you get flowers when you've performed. Isn't it lovely? It's kind of decaying, actually. It's kind of, but I like the gesture. Yeah.
So what are you doing with all these flowers?
Oh, well, most of the time I really take care of them at night already. I used to be like, oh, whatever, when I was younger, and I'm like, no, I got flowers, man, it's beautiful. So at night when I come home, 2 in the night, I start cutting, you know, and make a beautiful, bunch of flowers for my table. And sometimes I give them to my engineer for his wife. It's like, go, make her happy. And he's like, yeah, she's going to be happy. Cool. So we share.
Okay. Well, as a pianist, you have to deal with 88 keys, many more strings, 3 pedals and a huge body made from wood. Do you feel the energy of a piano, especially the warmth coming from the tree?
For the tree?
From the tree, from the wood. And do you ever sleep in the body of a grand piano? And what brand of pianos do you like the most and which not?
Oh gosh, that's a lot of questions in one. Well, first and foremost, I definitely can feel a piano within an instant, actually, because I've played on so many different ones. I feel I can play like 2 notes and I'm like, it's that kind of a piano. Not the brand, but the way it sounds, it immediately vibes or it doesn't with me. Or like, okay, this is going to be hard work tonight. You know, especially with kind of louder pianos, because I like to play soft. Yeah, brands. I mean, I've played on an excellent Yamaha. I've played on the worst Yamaha ever. They can differ within a brand, but I think it's not a secret that I'm still a complete fan of the Steinway D. It's a cliche, but I find it so beautiful, especially with the left pedal in. There's a certain sound that no other piano has when you push that specific pedal in. And I really like the Clavinch piano also. I don't know if you heard of it, by David Clavinch, the Una Corda. And I was fortunate enough to be the first artist ever to perform on the Una Corda concert grand. And the fun thing about these pianos is they all have 1 string. I mean, with normal pianos, the bass has 1 string, but then it becomes 2 strings, 3 strings for the upper versions. And his piano still has 1 string, and it's an upright. Even the grand piano, it just goes down, so you kind of have to walk on stairs. There's a little clip on my Facebook and YouTube where I performed Dull Mistake on it. And that's a very interesting piano, because after a few years of performing and playing like 50 times a year, you're like, okay, I've heard them all. And then I was in Budapest for a concert on his Una Corda. And I was like, what is this? This is so weird and different. So I'd like to record someday on that one. That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you ever sleep in the body of a piano?
Not in the body, I slept under. Because I went to acting school in Maastricht. First for a year, but I was very unhappy there. That was not my tribe, so to speak. So I really fled into piano playing, actually, away from the whole acting business. And there would be this one little room. It was a little room with a really big piano. And I felt very much at home there. And at a certain point, for 2 or 3 times, I think, in the middle of the day, I was tired. Like, I just went under there and I slept for a few hours.
Okay.
Feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the near piano.
Well, just recently you recorded the second part of your trilogy.
Yes.
In a very famous studio in Berlin in Germany. Please explain your choice and your experience.
Oh, that was lovely. The thing was, via my producer, Gerhard, I got to know Peter Schmidt, a famous mixer in Berlin. And he is, with his studio, just left above the Teldex, the really big, famous Teldex Studio. So we were mixing Solitary High, and at a certain point he's like, let's have a break. Oh, you should check out Teldex, because they're having a break now. Check the studio. And I will never forget, he opened the door, I looked, and I was like, oh shit, I want to record my next album here. It's like, blink, he just knew. So that had, that wasn't so easy to get there, but we managed, and wow, yeah, it's just history there. You walk into history it's like all this energy that's vibing still from the walls and from the Steinway D Grand also. It's just beautiful. I mean, a month before I recorded, Martha Argerich was there. It's one of my heroines, of all time on the piano. So like, I'm playing the same piano. But also, because it has so much history and so much density in the air there, you kind of have to make it your own and create space for your own music. So at a certain moment I had this little ritual that I would walk past all the walls and touch every corner, so to speak, to have my own energy in there. And then I started performing and playing and recording. So it was lovely and it sounded awesome. Yeah, and it was also good to go away for recording. With my team, we went to Berlin, it's a drive. You have to have some time, but everybody has families now. I have my kid, but for a few days you're out of that zone and into the being a musician zone, and I think that was very good for the record. Yeah.
And how did it go, the recording? Are you happy?
No, I am. No, I seriously am. It is very vulnerable, always. I heard this talk from Brené Brown, and she talked about having a vulnerability hangover. And I can relate to that. Ever since I recorded it, I kind of feel that was such a huge step to record those songs. They are even more personal than Solitary High. It's like a step into my own soul, even lower, like you follow the stairs from where you were at Solitary High. So I still kind of feel vulnerable from recording this album, and it's way too exciting to think about having to release it in a few months. But I think we managed to capture some magic. There were some magical moments. Songs that didn't work at home, that I took into the studio, and all of a sudden in the studio fell into place. So it should be interesting.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
John Cage, he also loved Satie.
Yeah.
He once said a recorded album is like a portable museum.
Nice.
Can you tell me why you like to record albums? Why is it important for you?
I don't know if I like it because it's such a hassle and it is so vulnerable, as I just said. So I don't know if I like it, but I need to because I like performing, and people have to have an idea what they're going into if they, book a ticket for me. So I need to, and I want to. But it's also, I have, of course, like everybody has a lot of favorite albums. They give you this certain energy, this certain, I don't know, magical experience, or I always like to have a try at making such an album for other people to have that same experience. That would be lovely.
Okay. Well, in an earlier interview you talked about the space between the notes you play, which are even spaces of silence. Please explain your view on these moments.
Well, there's a certain tension to music in general, but especially to the songs I make. I really try to play with this silence, with the density of the silence in between the notes. They can have a texture. The notes have a texture, but the silence has as well. And since I have so little to work with compared to the bands I used to tour with, like you have like 5 musicians and vocals and everything, it's just that piano and me. So this gives you energy, and it kind of entices you to really get into those little things, those details about the silence, the way you start a song, the way you end a song. Like for instance, I had a piano teacher, a really great one, Hilbrand Borkent was his name, from Amsterdam, and he would tell me when I don't know, studied Beethoven, when I started the song, he was like, no, I was already into it. No, hold on. You didn't start the song. He's like, I started the song. You didn't start the song. Start over. He's like, start again. No. And what he meant was, you start a song. You can feel that, right? I mean, and so that kind of tension, I really enjoy playing with that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you as an artist, you always have music in your head, in your life. Do you ever experience also really silence? And if so, how important is silence for you to experience?
Well, music or any idea comes from silence and from nothingness. Creativity can't come from being busy, or at least for me. So there is a certain silence I need. That's why I write a lot in the night. I mean, the world is quiet then. Your phone stops ringing. People go to sleep. So there's a certain openness, energy-wise. And it gets me creative, yeah. And also in the mornings when my daughter went to school and my husband went to his practice room. He's a saxophone player. So, and then I have this house to myself with the piano. And that sort of a silence I really need to write and to compose, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me what is the most beautiful sound you ever experienced in your life?
Well, it's a cliche, but well, I don't know in my life, but my favorite sound at the moment is my daughter tells little stories all day long, and you don't really hear what it's about, but you're like, and you hear this somewhere in the background where you're doing the dishes, and I think that is right now my very favorite sound. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as a solo artist, you have a lot of freedom. Do you somehow feel free to change parts of your songs while you perform? Like, are you open to improvise?
Yes, very much so. And every year more so. Because at a certain moment with Solitary High, I felt I had reached the end of what I had composed in giving it new energy each time you perform. I just performed them too much in that same order. And I've noticed that if I only change 2 or 3 notes, it gets a completely new energy that renews itself. So that's interesting. So yeah, I try to be open to that. I'm not like a big improviser making all kinds of, I don't know, outbursts in creativity in that sense, but I do like to play around with beginnings, endings, also with the tempo. Sometimes in the dynamics you can change also, like the louder, the softer bits, or with sustain, without sustain. So I try to play around with the details. Yeah, I do.
Okay. Can you tell me how much jazz is in you? Where are your main jazz influences coming from?
Gosh, I have the feeling that I'm not so much jazz influenced, to be honest. No, because the funny thing was, I always tried to make a pop album, but since I wrote these weird songs in the beginnings with all kinds of measurements in the, how do you say, maatsoorten? Well, anyways, with the timing and the rhythms, that I had one friend in music, and that was Martin Fonse, quite a well-known musician here in the Netherlands for jazz. And I said, "You're the only musician I know. I want a band. I need a drummer because I have my basses on the keyboard. I have my higher notes. I have my vocals. I need a drummer. Then I have a band." And he said, "Well, let me listen to your songs." And I showed him a few. And he said, "You have to work with Jonga Sung, which is an excellent jazz player and improviser, and likes the weird stuff that I did back then." So all of a sudden, and then Une van Geel joined, the violinist, and all of a sudden I was in jazz. I had never intended to. So it was kind of like Alice in Wonderland. I went through the hole, and all of a sudden I was a jazz performer. But to me, yeah, most influences are really the classical and the pop. And of course I listened to Keith Jarrett and Chick Corea and all kinds, and Brett Meldau, as we just spoke about. But to say I'm really influenced by them, I don't think so much, no.
What do you want to attract in people, in the listener? Is there something? Is there a kind of basic emotion you want to attract? Maybe.
I'm not sure, but I like to enter at heart level with my songs and somehow get through these layers that everybody has their shells during daytime or work, and I think to enjoy music is a moment where you kind of can let go of that, and that's what I hope for when I play, that people can kind of get into a softer space in themselves. I think that's kind of what we all
do. You reflect social and environmental changes in your music and lyrics?
No, not so much. I think it's more personal. But actually, the deeply personal is the deeply political in some way, or I've noticed that the more personal my lyrics become, actually, the more people can relate to them. And I am changing myself all the time, and I try to live my life according to my own deepest wishes, and that's not always the common way to live your life. So I think my lyrics reflect kind of paving your own path in life, and that's a social change that's definitely been going on in the last few decades. Of course, everybody talks about following your own path, staying true to who you are, and we're as a society, I think we're still quite struggling with that. So I think that reflects in my music definitely.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever experience problems in your career, and how did you solve them? What did they offer you?
Wow.
Maybe.
How long did you have? The time?
We still have something.
You have 2 days? Wow, did I experience trouble in my career? Of course I did, a lot of it. I mean, doing your own thing in music and trying to make a living out of it, that's like swimming upstream, man. It is swimming upstream every freaking day, from morning to night. And sometimes you get a little bit, you know, you can relax a little bit on a good day, but it's intense and it's lovely, but it's a constant problem solving. That's what it is. And then my time off is the time I really get to perform, or the time I really get to compose. But all the other hours are filled with problem solving. I won't get into more than that because it's not the most interesting to talk about. But yeah, there's a lot of that.
Okay, well, let's meet again then.
Yeah.
Well, please tell me how you compose. First, the music. Second, the lyrics. And of course, I really would like to know, where are all these melodies coming from?
Well, it kind of goes hand in hand. The writing. Sometimes you have this one sentence. For instance, with the song Honey. The music and the melody and the lyric came at the same time. My heart's pounding, my heart's pounding, my heart's pounding as you come closer. That was kind of a thing that was in my head all of a sudden. But then all the rest I still had to kind of craft. But most of the time I just start at the piano to find a riff or a hook or a lovely melody, like the intro of a song. I usually start with the intro of a song, and then out comes the verse, and from the verse comes the chorus. And most of the time I have my melodies first, and then the melodies are put to oohs and ahs and kind of like that. And sometimes a certain emphasis on a certain part of the melody, it needs that ah. So I have to find a word with an ah, because it just needs the ah. So, yeah, so I guess it's a bit like that. And the melodies, where did they come from? I have no idea, but I'm always looking for this, how do you say in English? The gulden snede, you say in Dutch. Like Michelangelo with I don't know in English how you say it, but kind of I don't want to say perfection, but there can be a certain clarity in melodies, and then they start shining. And I'm always looking for that. Like how can every piece of the melody land that you're like, ah, this is what I want to listen to, and I want to listen to it again and again and again, because a really good melody you just want to hear over and over and over. Yeah.
And the lyrics?
Yeah, it's, well, Solitary High, that was making the melodies and then having my phone on and just going on and on about just improvising until it kind of made sense to me. And I would write the best lyrics down, the best sentences, and then start improvising again. And for Midair, my next album for this fall coming out, it was a bit easier. They kind of came along. I don't know. It wasn't so much a process of digging anymore. For Solitary High, it was kind of digging, like in the mud, like where are my lyrics? And for Midair, it was a lot easier somehow. You know?
And how do you decide what is good enough?
Yeah.
Or do you have a big trash container where you also put a lot of inside there?
I have a trash container in my computer. It has a few different it has like one folder says maybes, one folder says no way, but well, here it is anyway. One folder says keepers, and during a process of writing I kind of mix them all together all the time. They go from the folder no way to, well, maybe, to, you know, it kind of differs like that. And I think I'm done with something when I relax, because I always feel tension when it's not done yet. And then I do it over and over again, change that note, and at a certain moment I'll be like, and then it's done. Yeah, then it feels like it's landed in its own shoes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a ritual to do this composition work? Do you need to be in the right moment for that, or can you do that always?
No, because I sometimes also, I do my groceries and I get a melody in my head. I'm like, fuck, where's my phone? I need to record it right now, because if you don't put it down immediately, in 5 minutes, it's going to go away.
Where is it going then?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, who was that? It wasn't Tom Waits, but it was, I think Tom Waits said like, oh, I have to catch a melody, otherwise it'll go to Leonard Cohen. I love that idea. It's like it goes through the air, and if you don't catch it, someone else will.
Okay. Well, if you could meet one of your big inspirations today,
Tom York.
like Schumann, Debussy, or Satie, who would be your guest today, and which questions would you like to ask him?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the first people that come to mind are Tom York and Björk, actually. I would love to meet them, and I would ask them, I don't know, we would have to have a few pints of beer and just talk all night. I think I could ask them a million questions. I don't know, the composers never thought of that, who I'd love to meet. Oh, maybe Rachmaninoff. Don't know what I'd ask him. Maybe to just play for me.
Well, as a born United States citizen and you're living in the Netherlands, how do you feel here? Do you feel like an expat?
No, not at all.
Or
really, I am super Dutch. It was 8 months in America, so I feel Dutch. Period. Actually.
okay, and what does Holland or the Netherlands offer you as in artistic ways?
Well, I think there's quite some space to make things and to it's open enough as a culture to be able to create. What I do miss though is when I play abroad, I feel there's even more love and I don't know, certain deep respect for people that make music. I don't encounter it so much because I make this silent music and people are most of the time silent, but in the Netherlands people can also talk like through crowds can talk through. I mean, and that's always such a pity, and I don't really get it also. Like, you pay for a ticket and then you start talking. I mean, you could have lost a ticket and go to the bar across the street, right? But anyways, when I went to Budapest and to Berlin to play, I felt there's just a different vibe and a different appreciation to music. Then again, I wouldn't want to leave Holland because I love living here and I love performing here also.
Tell me please what you like to live in Arnhem and what not.
Oh, I really like the quarter I'm living in. I live in Spijkerkwartier, which is a really nice old bit of the town. These houses from the 1900s, and I love the nature around the city. It's just a 10-minute either drive or bicycle ride and you're like in the middle of nature, and it's just so beautiful. And it has the middle ground between a city and a village, so I can calm down if I want to easily, and there's also just about enough entertainment or culture or concerts or lovely bars to hang out with friends and have a good time. So that middle ground I like a lot about it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. What is the most beautiful for you to be a musician?
Well, to not have to do all the other stuff. Yeah, I don't know, growing up I had a family who'd studied university and had these really good careers in science or in corporate, but somehow they didn't seem too happy to me, and I felt at a young age like I'm gonna do something different. And for me to be able to work with a thing of beauty on a daily basis, that is such a luxury and such a wonderful thing to occupy oneself with. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, before you start to tour, and you tour a lot with many concerts, you need to be well prepared. How do you prepare yourself?
As I said in the concert, I play a lot of Bach, the wohltemperierte Klavier, the Bible of piano players. Well, at least to me it is. I try to play Bach every day. It doesn't always happen, but I try to. I don't know. I for instance, yesterday for 2 difficult songs, I practiced them with my eyes closed, even though they have big jumps in the left hand, and I make 1,000 mistakes. But then, if I do that a few times with my eyes open, it'll be a lot easier. So I have these little tricks how to you know, how to practice, and the rest of it is just doing it. I mean, also these kind of tryout concerts I do right now, these help a lot to get acquainted with the new material and get a flow in them. Yeah.
While you play, you also close your eyes many times.
Yes.
And you open them, of course, again. And you also lift your hand, your left hand sometimes, and it stays somewhere. Please explain your way of playing for me.
Well, that always feels a bit exposed. I don't know. It's like we talked about with the silence and the density of the silence. It's almost like I'm molding it when I lift my left hand. It's like I'm molding the silence to, yeah, now we can let go. You know, now the song's finished. Or I think my whole body and system is into kind of pushing and pulling this energy that's in the song, that's in the air, that's between the audience and me, between me and the piano. Yeah. I think that's the reason why I move the way I move.
Okay.
Like it's clay, like the energy or the muse, like it's clay. You can kind of somehow mold it.
Your artist name is Lavalu.
Sure.
Please explain.
Well, it is from lavar and lux, and lavar means washing, and also, yeah, and lux is light, and the washing light, at least in Dutch, is also upcoming light. So, there's your answer.
Okay.
Rising light. You should say it like that, probably.
Well, once you performed at the Montreux Jazz Festival,
I did.
so you have to be somehow also be in the jazz. How was that for you? How did you get there, and who did you meet?
I don't know, my manager back then, she enrolled us somehow or had us booked, and it was lovely. But we played on the outer stage, and it was just full with people and filled with energy, and yeah, I can remember that I loved the long trip over there, and then to be able to play at such a nice place with the lake in the background and everything was just beautiful. And who did I meet? To be honest, I'm not so sure anymore. I think we could only stay for a short while because we had a gig the next day back in the Netherlands, I believe. So we weren't there for very long. But I mean, I played in the jazz for a few years and I really liked it also. But I had surrounded myself with the jazz musicians and the jazz world. It wasn't so much in me as well, but I really appreciated it, you know, I really liked it. And the creativity and the openness of the people in it. And it's an extraordinary crowd, the jazz musicians. Yeah, we had a lot of fun creating and offstage.
Well, you rehearse often, I think. And when you rehearse, do you also record yourself in audio and video, just to check how you look like, maybe?
No, not video. Audio a lot. Like my phone is my biggest and best teacher I have ever had, because she's so very honest.
What's the name of your phone?
Just phone. But I mean, there's, oh gosh, talking about being exposed. When you hear yourself back, it is excruciating sometimes, but that has been I think my best teacher ever. Just hear yourself do it. And when it's good, I'm never like, oh, that was good. I'm always like, I can relax. And when it's bad, you're like cringing, you know? It's like, oh God, no, I need to do, I need to sing that differently. But it's a very good mirror.
Okay. But there's a beautiful video of your song Waiting.
Thank you.
Filmed, like I can see it with one camera.
True.
And in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that in black and white?
Yeah, 'cause I think playing with the sort of the classical music, it kind of made me think of black and white videos. And we made it a one-taker, actually. It's actually a nice question. We made it a one-taker because also Solitary High was recorded in one take. Well, not the whole, but every song was a one-taker. It was never edited. really the old school way of, you know, of recording. Nowadays everybody cuts up everything and that can lead to super nice results, but I wanted to do it the old-fashioned way. And so also when we made the videos, I felt it needed to resemble that atmosphere. So also no editing, just give it a one take, give it all you got, go in with the, you know, feel the vibe, feel the energy, and then come together. It made this lovely video waiting, yeah.
Okay, thank you. What goal do you have to reach on music?
I don't know. I'd love to be able to tour Europe, which I'm already starting out a bit with. But to have these halls, like the way Damien Rice and Rufus Wainwright fill like a Carré, or you know, the really nice concert halls, and they do it solo. That's kind of my dream, that with my piano, with a big Steinway Grand, I get to tour these kinds of places and everybody comes to listen. That'd be my dream.
Okay. Can you please hum for me a small little melody? Can you tell me who you are in private, when there is no music and music business around?
I'm not sure. I think I kind of resemble this one. But with also a bit more dark sides than you see here. So, I mean, the music comes from someplace, right? I'm quite an emotional and also a quite vulnerable person in a way. Things, yeah, can easily get into my system. So I also need time to myself, and I need time at home to kind of recuperate from the world. And I love hanging out with my husband and my kid and my friends. I have this little community in my hometown of a few people that I hang out with a lot, and I'm very grateful for them. It keeps me very grounded and real, and I feel very loved by them. So I think I'm in a very good space these days. Yeah, I'm grateful for that.
And how do you relax from all that work you do?
Well, I like to drink. This is actually without alcohol because I have to drive, but no, I really like to hang out with friends and, you know, or play games or just talk a lot and have a drink, and or I watch Netflix. I mean, definitely. Sometimes you just want to go into a world that's not mine, and I think something like that.
Well, you must be very sensitive through playing the piano like you do. How do you deal with people who want to shake your hands? How do you feel while touching other ordinary things with your hands? And do you have to be careful with your hands at all?
Well, I don't ski. That's really like no, that's a conscious decision I made at some point. Like, now that I'm so kind of dependent on playing the piano financially and also emotionally, actually, it's even more important. I decided not to go skiing anymore because it's just too big a risk. And for the further part, I mean, there's no controlling these things. So I just try to live my life, and you know. I don't remember the other part of the question. Oh yeah, how is it to encounter people after gigs or around gigs? I'm getting better at it, but it used to, like back in the day, it used to feel a bit invasive because you go into this atmosphere, and it's hard to relate for other people or for the audience, but it's kind of like a different half of your brain that goes into performing. And like the talking part and being social is like another part of your brain, and sometimes they don't want to connect right after a gig or right before. So then it's quite intense to have to talk to people, but since I've gotten a bit older and a bit more relaxed as a person, I think, and as an artist, also I find that a bit more easy. And I like the fact that, as I said during the performance, there are a few people, or more than a few, luckily, that really follow my music now and that come to multiple gigs. And it's just lovely to see these people. They're very respectful. I have, the fans that I have are really, they're just really nice. So it's lovely to see their faces again at a show and that they're enjoying themselves and taking friends, you know, then they're with that one, then with that one. And yeah, so I think I'm growing into it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the excellent questions and the preparation. Thank you.